Hello, everyone. Welcome to SparrowCast. And we have Shannon J Gregg with us today. She's the president of Cloud Adoption Solutions, a woman owned Salesforce consultancy focused on change management and user adoption. She can be described as a sales tech geek and is someone who is very passionate about sales. Her keynote talks and workshops on sales productivity and time management are quite famous with her audience. She's also the author of It's About Time: How to Do More of What Matters in the Time You Have. And she is here with us today to share her insights on redefined sales funnel, future quarter playout, and sales operations. Welcome to the show, Shannon. We're so happy that you agreed to be a part of this, and I'm super excited.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm also super excited to be here, especially now. We're in the dawn of something brand new in sales, right? The past quarter in sales has changed more than the past 10 years, I think, in terms of what we're faced with, the challenges that we have, and how we're going to respond to those challenges. So thank you so much for having me.
All right. So without further ado, let's begin with our session. So it's completely over to you, Shannon.
Great. So what we've been seeing in the face of a global pandemic is that even the most traditional industries are looking at ways to take their sales virtual. And this provides a big challenge for people who are used to belly-to-belly, face-to-face sales. How do you do that when you can't meet somebody in person? You can't go to the networking events. You can't shake their hand and let your eyes sit on each other as you start to develop that sort of relationship. And so I'm excited to talk to you today about ways that our sellers can get out there and make themselves known without relying on the traditional tried and true methods of sales.
All right. Okay. So just before we getting into that topic, I'm just very curious to understand what would be the future of virtual sales, taking this current pandemic into consideration.
Well, I hope that the future of virtual sales is definitely in response to what we're seeing in the pandemic. Because what we've seen is people be even more creative with their methods of prospecting, developing relationships, finding people who really need their value as a trusted advisor, as a seller. And so we're seeing people start to play with things that we haven't seen them play with before. Automation in their CRM systems, video for prospecting, video meetings just like we're doing now. And I think what it's doing is opening up a brand new possibility. So people are likely to say yes if you want a video meeting. You can meet people halfway across the world, and it really is expanding our networks. And I love the implications for the future.
All right. So apart from these video recordings, like what you suggested, how else can we be creative in building relationship in sales right now at this point?
That is such a good question. And I'm so glad that you're talking specifically about building relationships, because that's what it comes down to. Sales is always and has always been about building relationships. So the transactional order taker seller, that person has gone away, right? We've been seeing this development where salespeople are becoming even more educated about their topic. They're transitioning into sales from being really deep subject matter experts, and their prospects and their clients are looking to them to be the one to say, I know all of the research, I know what's keeping you up at night. And so I think now what we're looking at is, how do I creatively convey to you that I'm the one who has the expertise that you have? And so that deeper relationship becomes even more critical and important as we say, how do we reach out to you? How do we best find you? And sometimes it's as simple as asking your prospect or your customer, hey, how do you prefer to be reached? Do you like Zoom calls? It's okay if you don't have your video on. Should I be texting you? Because those are the questions we've been asking for the past 10 years anyway, with this fourth digital revolution coming along. I think we're saying, these are the things that we've been wanting to know, and now our audience is so much more willing to hear it.
Great. So that's all about building the sales relationship. But when it comes to coordinating between different departments, since everybody's working from home, how can we smoothen that point of action? So, or how can we just coordinate between different departments to smoothen a sales process with the current situation?
You're doing such a good job of tapping into all of the biggest challenges our salespeople have right now. How do you reach your prospects and your customers when we're living in this virtual environment? And then once you do that, how do you transition that information to the rest of the organization? So it used to be our field salesperson could come into the office, bring a bag of bagels and say, thank you so much to my sales support team or my finance team or my delivery team who's taking all the things I'm saying are possible and making them true. And that is even more challenging now. And so I think it's all about intention. You asked before about building relationships. The same thing has to be done in internal organizations as with external clients and prospects, right? So the salesperson now has to say, what can I do for you? How could I make this better as we do the sales to service handoff? Or what sort of information do you need for your financial projection and analysis? What can I be doing as a salesperson to make your job easier? And so I think when we start to be really serious about that intention and take it to the people who are internal to our organizations, they're going to start to see that the feedback loop is beginning to be closed, and we'll be able to value and deepen those relationships as we're looking for smoother interdepartmental negotiations.
All right. Okay, that was really great, Shannon. So while I was just, browsing through your articles which you have posted in LinkedIn, so most famous or most trending one comes to time management. So just to sum it up for the audience, would you like to share some tips and tricks for time management for us today?
I think time management is the tool of the best seller. So when you look at the way that you're managing your time, it has to also be super intentional when you're a salesperson. And one of the things I think about is early assembly lines, right? So whenever people would assemble cars, what they found is when one person would be putting every single component onto the car, it took longer, it was an onerous process, and it was really challenging for one person to keep shifting their brain to say, how can I put each component on and make them safe and make this a really valuable product? And so sales is the same way. If you can batch your activities and say, okay, for the next 60 minutes, I'm going to be prospecting. This is my prospecting piece of the assembly line. You get into a rhythm, your body starts to respond to that, your brain responds to that. And whenever you batch in that sort of way, it gives you an efficiency and effectiveness in your process and your approach that allows you to do more with the time that you have. And so I think when you're a salesperson and you're looking at, what do I spend my time on doing? If you're reactive to everything that comes in, you're going to spend all of that mental time transitioning from one activity to the other. Whereas if you can batch your time and you get into that sort of productive assembly line process, all of a sudden you're going to find that you are completing more activities. You're doing more of the things that you need to be a really critical seller in today's environment.
All right. So Shannon, that was truly an amazing session, short and crisp and sweet. So I'm sure that our audience too appreciates the insights and thoughts which you just shared with us today. So let me just summarize the key takeaways from our session today. So first one, which I think which I can summarize was it helps you exhibit better creativity and lets you start an interaction or build a relationship with someone you haven't met in person. Second one would be video prospecting and deep research helps you build a relationship on actual data. Third one would be best salespeople are the ones who know how to do their time. And fourth one would be the intentional bridges between all the other departments in the organization is critical for sales. Once again, thanks for your time and for sharing your thoughts, Shannon. And we shall see you again in the next SparrowCast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.